I guess.
Okay, I'm gonna press go live. It'll take it a second. It's thinking, and it was fast. You're live.
All right, we're live with Dulcimoon Talk number 39. I'm DJ Hamoris, and I have Susan Trump with me today from Florida today, but in New York next week, right?
Yes, Albany, upstate New York.
Uh-huh. Whereabouts?
Albany.
Albany. I'm in
Yep.
Albany, California. There we go. From
Are you
Albany to
really?
Albany.
Oh, that's
Yes,
funny. That's funny.
that's funny.
Yep.
Well, I'm really excited that we were able to organize this talk with you today, Susan. I've really appreciated meeting you a couple of times. The last time was at the Lagnac Dulcimer Fete just before everything shut down in 2020,
That was it. And then also at Camp Wallowa.
right? Right.
Yep. That
Yeah.
was a year or two ago.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Yeah, that was wonderful.
It was
So
fun.
thank you so much for joining us today. I
My
know that
pleasure.
you've been around for a while, teaching and playing and recording and performing. I have your recording from Caffe Lena. I love that recording. It's a beautiful one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That
So
was
tell us,
that was a very special night. That was live at Caffe Lena, and it's the longest continuously running coffee house in the country.
wow.
So when you're standing on that stage, you're standing where Bob Dylan, Tom Paxton, Dave Van Ronk, Utah Phillips, Rosalie Sorrells. I mean, there's so much energy. Every time you play somewhere, you leave a little bit of yourself, and so you walk on that stage and you're just lifted up. It's an amazing place. I got to play there for 30 years, every year for about 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What town is it in?
It's in Saratoga Springs, New York,
Hmm.
which is that's about 40 minutes from Albany, 40 minutes north.
Hmm. Wow. That's
Yeah,
amazing. What
it's wonderful to be
opportunities.
that close because then you get to go to see all these amazing concerts too,
Mhm,
which is cool.
mhm. So I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I work out of the freight and salvage in Berkeley. And one of the wonderful things about that is that I get to go to the concerts there as
Oh
an
yeah.
employee. So I know what it's like to have a house like that near you where you get to see some amazing folks.
Oh yeah. I got to see Kate Wolf,
Oh, wonderful.
more than once, and her amazing backup musician Nina, was it Garber,
Nina
Nina?
Gerber,
Yeah,
she's still playing.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there have been some amazing concerts that I've gotten to see, which is great because you're not everyone is in an area where they can partake of all this traditional and folk music.
That's right. That's right. And as a musician, you need the inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
You
It
really
helps.
do. Yeah.
Yes.
So, what was your original inspiration to be involved in music, to learn music? What was your first instrument?
Actually, it was the piano.
Hmm.
And I was very lucky to be born into a very musical family. My mom and dad both played the violin, and they were both in they were in a community orchestra. So every, I don't know, Wednesday or Thursday night, I would get, I would go along with them to their rehearsals. So I grew up, I'd take a coloring book or a workbook, something, and just have this orchestral music going, from the time I was a little kid, and it was wonderful. And then my mom used to play the piano as well, and we would gather around on Saturday nights and sing. She played the piano, and we would just sing. My dad had a beautiful voice, and my brother later on played the clarinet. Sometimes he would play along with us, but I don't remember that happened very often. But it was amazing to be able to be in that environment. So I think when I was in third grade, mom started teaching me the piano,
Hmm.
and then I took up the clarinet in junior high so I could be in the band, and I loved being in the band. That was fun. And when I was 15, I got a hold of a guitar. and I learned to play 3 chords on the guitar. I played E, A, and B7, and I played along with Herman's Hermits, Ooh Baby, Can't You Hear My Heartbeat? And I knew I wanted to be a folk singer. And I ran into my parents' room and I said, Mom, Dad, I want to be a folk singer. And they said, that's nice. Okay. I mean, they were always supportive, but I always loved music. I loved the piano. I would practice in junior high and high school. Mom didn't have to tell me to practice. I would just come home and play. And it's funny, when I decided I wanted to be a folk singer, I was thinking about the British invasion and all the bands that are coming over here and all that stuff. And I thought, cool, okay, 3 things. I will get to travel all over the country, all over the world, maybe. I will get to meet all kinds of really cool people, and I'll make a lot of money. So I got to travel all over the place. I've got to meet incredible people along the way, and I've always had enough. You know, you don't get rich playing music, mostly. But
one of my friends says that.
I have been able to support myself as a musician, and that is a real gift. That is a real gift.
It is.
So,
it is.
Yeah. Yeah. So those 3 chords and Herman's Hermits and all that just kind of put me on the road.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then when I went to college, I went to a liberal arts school. Actually, I had played piano, and I did auditions at various schools as a piano major. But then I decided I decided maybe I'd like to major in history or political science. So I went to a liberal arts school, beautiful liberal arts school in upstate New York, in Geneva, New York. It's William Smith and Hobart colleges. And I lasted 1 semester without taking a music class. So basically, I got involved in music right away.
Yeah.
Which was pretty, I just took all these classes. And one of the things I liked the best about it was music education. I loved orchestration and orchestrating music for different, for all different instruments, and that was fun. And that certainly has gone through my career in arranging music for, for Mountain Dulcimer, because that's one of my passions. I really like making arrangements for this instrument.
Have you ever done like ensemble arrangements for dulcimers?
Oh yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
one of my part music things, playing with other people
Right.
and doing everything from fiddle tunes to Shostakovich,
Right.
on the dulcimer. Why not?
Yep. Yep. I know. I'm at quarantine. The quarantine coming up. I'm offering a workshop in. I called it Bach Festival, and we're doing 2 Bach pieces for advanced people, and it's amazing because you can arrange. I mean, the dulcimer is a beautiful instrument. You can push the envelope, and I know there are people that push it way further than I can, in jazz and different genres. But you can also maintain, and I always try to keep in mind the elegant simplicity of the mountain dulcimer, because it's an incredible instrument, and I'm really happy to have found the dulcimer and found my niche in the dulcimer community. That's really what's enabled me to make a living doing this.
So how did you find the mountain dulcimer?
Well, I probably knew about it when I was in college, but after I graduated from college, I went back I was living on Long Island at the time with my parents, and I heard about this school called the Guitar Workshop, and it was in Roslyn, New York. And so I went down and checked that out, and it was a wonderful school. They gave lessons basically in guitar, every style except rock and roll. So I right away, got involved with that as a student, and they're mowing our lawn today, right now. Wouldn't you know it? Anyway, so when you sign up to take lessons, you get interviewed with the director, and then he tells you what lessons you're going to have and your teachers and stuff. So he took me on as his own student, and it wasn't too long before I was actually hired to teach there. With my, with my background in music ed and all that. So one of the people on the staff at the guitar workshop was Peter Pickow, who was probably about 19 years old at the time. Well, Peter Pickow is Gene Ritchie's son. Mm-hmm. And this was an organization that had, the people that were teaching there were incredible. And so there was Gene Ritchie's son. There was a man named Jeff Warner, who was the son of Ann and Frank Warner, who were collectors in the 1940s and 50s. And they traveled all around the Appalachians and the Adirondacks collecting folk music. They collected Tom Dooley, and that sort of started the folk revival. So I just got plunked down in the middle of all this, and I got to meet Gene Ritchie. And here I was in the middle of all this amazing traditional music, which I had grown up listening to Peter, Paul, and Mary mostly. Mm-hmm. And so here was like another kind of traditional music. It was just really, really, really amazing. And we used to have parties at Gene Ritchie's house. So we would go over. She had one room that was a great big room with a cathedral ceiling, and we went to her Christmas party one time. And there was this man in the middle of the room, and I had no idea who he was, but people were flocking around him big time. And I said to Peter, who is that guy? He said, oh, that's Alan Lomax. Alan Lomax, oh my gosh. He has a book of collections that's this thick, folk songs of North America.
Aren't his recordings in the Smithsonian?
Oh gosh, yes. Yeah. He's about as famous as you get. I was like, oh my goodness.
Right. And for those people who don't know about Alan Lomax, when I say his recordings are at the Smithsonian, they're not him singing, I don't think, for the most part. It's him collecting and recording from the original sources in the hills and hollers.
Yes, and in the West, and cowboy songs and lumberjack songs and blues. He's probably one of the biggest collectors that we ever had.
Right.
At least the most well known. He was amazing. So this one time I was in the office at the guitar workshop, and somebody said the director was Kent, so they said, Kent, it's for you. So he's talking away, and you go, oh, hi Judy, how are you? Blah blah blah, and he's talking away, he hangs up, he goes, oh, that was Judy Collins. Oh my gosh, it was. Can you imagine being 20 years old, 22, and being plunked down in the middle of this hotbed of traditional music? There were concerts every Sunday, and throughout the week in the summertime at various parks. There was the Highwood String Band, old-timey musicians from upstate New York, the Bothy Band, who else? Let's see. Oh, Allie Bain, Shetland Fiddler, and just all these people. And the other fun thing was, I was living in a shared house, with other faculty members from the guitar workshop. So when these people would come to town, we would have parties.
Of course.
And they would come, and Allie Bain, there would be a different kind of music all over the house. So one time I remember Allie Bain was in the living room with an amazing fiddler from New York City, Father Dan, I think, and I don't remember his last name. They played until 4 o'clock in the morning in the living room. Upstairs, the Highwood String Band members were playing, and people were waltzing around in the, in the hallway, and waltzes and old-timey music upstairs. In the front yard was Jeff Warner with his concertina, and they were doing sea shanties. In the backyard was contemporary folk music. I mean, and you just wander around, come in the kitchen, grab some food, wander around. And it was like going to music heaven.
What a magical life. It's like summer camp all year.
Yeah. But the other interesting thing about that was I had 35 guitar students a week.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and I probably was the only one that kept lesson plans because that's what I was trying to do. But yeah, so that was, I mean, and we taught classes as well. Mm-hmm. So I really, really had a chance to get my teaching chops together.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, my first teaching experience was when I was in the 11th grade. I had 3 private guitar students. I'd probably been playing a year or two, and I was teaching. And all through college, this is amazing too when I think about it. All through college, I had some little kids from the community who would come up to my dorm room. You know, I'd make an extra pocket money. The kids would come in and I would give them guitar lessons. Can you imagine children coming into a dorm room now? Oh my gosh. No. Well, they were gentler times in many ways.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so back to the guitar workshop. I had 35 students, and we were encouraged to take lessons with each other. So I had lessons in classical guitar, jazz guitar, blues, traditional unaccompanied singing, traditional singing, and probably something else. Oh, banjo.
Oh,
I
okay.
took 5 lessons a week as well.
Wow.
So this was what an opportunity that was. It was incredible.
So where did the mountain dulcimer come in? Here you are at the guitar workshop.
Well, I was at the guitar workshop, but I was, knowing Jean Ritchie.
Yes.
And, like getting to hear her and her music, and also the other thing that this actually led to the dulcimer, because the guitar was, well, I was learning about all this traditional music, so I felt like, I need to go down to the Southern Appalachians. I need to find out what's going on down there. Mm-hmm. So I went down there, and I went to the Blue Ridge Parkway. I think it was the Moses Cone Craft Shop, and happened to see a mountain dulcimer on the wall. Oh wait, before that, I have to go back because I forgot when you mentioned the mountain dulcimer. My other influence was, after being at the guitar workshop, I found out about this summer camp called Pinewoods Folk Music Camp. Mm-hmm. And one of the people, and that was in Massachusetts, and one of the people on staff was Margaret MacArthur. And Margaret MacArthur is somebody that hasn't really, I think the dulcimer world hasn't remembered her as much as I think we should. And maybe we can look a little bit more into her music. She was there, and she was the first person I heard playing hammer-ons and pull-offs and fiddle tunes on the mountain dulcimer. And I thought, whoa, this is cool. I mean, Jean was accompanying her singing, which I certainly appreciated, but Margaret was doing fiddle tunes and stuff like that, and I went, oh. So I retuned my guitar to open D tuning, and I attached my little self to Margaret MacArthur, and I followed her around all week and learned all kinds of songs on open string tuning so my guitar could sound like a dulcimer. Mm-hmm. Then I went to the Southern Appalachians, and I found my first dulcimer hanging on the wall in the craft shop. Mm-hmm. So I knew I had to have it. So I'm paying for this dulcimer, and I said, I'd really like to know about the person that made it. And they said, well, we never give out, and he's a member of the Highland Craft Guild. This is Bob Mize, and we never give out information about our artists. And I thought, you're protecting them from their adoring fans, really? Oh, well, whatever. Okay, so I went out into the sunlight and I looked inside the Dulcimer, and there's a return address sticker, Bob Mize, 600 Cross Community Drive, Blountville, Tennessee. And I thought, well, this is easy. And I know I'm dating myself, but I found a public phone booth because we didn't have cell phones then. And I called information. I called Bob, and I said, I'd really like to meet you because you made this instrument. So I went to his house. He gave me directions. I went to his house and met his wife. I pulled up the driveway, this long driveway, and Bob right away introduced his wife and then took me off up to the shop where he had stacks and stacks of wood cut out for mountain dulcimers. He had mountain dulcimers hanging in various forms and different stages of production. And then the thing that he loved to do was show you the wood and the grain of the wood. So he'd take the wood and he'd take a turpentine cloth and rub it over the wood, and he'd say, look at the grain in that. And I was wonderful. I had such a nice time. And then I said, well, listen, this has been great, but I probably should get going now. And he said, he looked at his watch, he goes, oh no, he said, it's supper time. We can't send you off into the mountains without feeding you, so come on down. Well, he had his wife, Mama Maud, was well trained. And as soon as somebody came up the driveway, she went in the kitchen and started cooking. So we came down to this beautiful spread, beautiful dinner, delicious food. And then I got to talk to Maud and, meet her a little bit. And we had a wonderful time and talked. And Bob was a big talker. And so I was looking at my watch and I'm going, well, this has been wonderful, but I really need to get going. And Bob says, oh, well, it's going to be dark soon and we can't send you off into the mountains like when it's getting dark. You'll just have to stay the night. I said, okay.
Mountain hospitality.
You bet. I think I ended up staying 3 days that first trip. And the interesting thing is, too, once you get to be family, Bob and Maud were family. I mean, they literally were. We were friends for 25 years. He made about 4,000 dulcimers over his career. So once he gets to know you, he would take you back up to the shop and show you the good wood. He had the amazing stuff set off in the back, and he said, now let me show you this. And he'd pull out wood that was like quilted maple and cherry, and oh my gosh, it was amazing. And he got the turpentine and he's showing you all how to do this. It was delightful, and what a gift to my life. I have had so many gifts like that along the way, just meeting remarkable people, and in the dulcimer world. And so that was just wonderful, meeting Bob and Maud. And in fact, 25 years later, Maud had passed away, and Bob actually took his very first airplane ride to come up to my wedding, to our wedding. And he walked my mom down the aisle. So yeah, when I'm saying we're family, we really, really were.
Yeah.
There are just so many stories with Bob and Maud. It was just great.
I love hearing all of that. And it does happen with the dulcimer community. We feel so akin to one another so quickly.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. So then, I guess I went back north, and I got a phone call from somebody who wanted dulcimer lessons. Well, truth be told, I had my Bob Mize dulcimer, and I knew a couple of songs, maybe 2, and I put it into my program. So when I was performing, I was doing banjo and I was doing guitar, and then I'd pull out the mountain dulcimer and tell them all about it, and I'd play my 2 songs. I didn't tell anybody that was my entire repertoire. That was it. And if it got out of tune, I could probably figure out how to tune it again. But anyway, so someone called me up. Actually, the secretary of the CEO of a giant corporation called me up to make an appointment for her boss to come and have dulcimer lessons.
Wow.
And I thought, I mean, Jean wasn't teaching, and I thought, well, you know, it's a stringed instrument, and I know hammer-ons and pull-offs and all that stuff. I said, I can stay a couple lessons ahead of him, and I can get him started. I mean, you know, all in good faith. Well, I'll tell you what, once you start teaching an instrument, that's when you really learn what it can do.
Yep.
And that's what really got me going and really understanding the instrument and loving it, you know, just beyond. I mean, you know, it's just a wonderful, it's an amazing instrument. And it was funny because when my student's name was Win, and when Win came in for his lesson, he shows up in a three-piece suit. He was probably 6'4", big, imposing guy, and he has his dulcimer in a case. Well, I had my Bob Mize dulcimer, which didn't even have a 6.5 fret, I don't think. No, I don't think it did. Anyway, he takes out a Folk Roots Michael Rugg, top of the line instrument. And my eyes went like this. I didn't know they looked like that. Oh my goodness. So I was like, okay, I can teach you how to play this. But I was quite taken with it. And I will say, I mean, Win and I and his wife became fast friends also. And at Christmas time, Win, who was very shy, came in with a great big box. And I went, oh my gosh. And he wouldn't let me open it till Christmas. And he had gotten me a Folk Roots Michael Rugg dulcimer. It was amazing. You know, it was great. Amazing instrument as well. And they took me down to Boone, North Carolina to the Dulcimer week-long Dulcimer Festival, where I went as a student. And I had Wayne Seymour was my teacher, and that's where I learned to play with a pick. Because when I started, I was doing a little I always played finger-picking style guitar, still do. And so I had figured out a little finger-picky thing with some flicks when I needed a strum, and you know, it was kind of fun because we all learned in a vacuum. There weren't dulcimer teachers, we were it. So I was in Wayne Seymour's class, and I learned to play with a pick. And Maddie McNeil was there as well. And during her concert, I guess we had, you know, you get to know people at the festivals, and she invited me to be part of a chorus and sing on stage with her. And that meant so much. I mean, she was such a lovely singer, and I think her favorite song was probably Shenandoah. And she would play the hammer dulcimer as well as Mountain. So it was wonderful moments. And then one thing led to another. Anyway, I got hired to teach at Boone the following year, which totally blew me away. The staff was David Schnaufer and Maddie McNeil, Wayne Seymour, Mark Nelson from, I think he's in Oregon, and Lois Hornbostel was on staff, and I think Betty Smith. And the funny thing there, it was my first time teaching at a week-long Dulcimer festival, and I don't think that Michael Rugg dulcimer had a 6.5 fret. So
probably not.
No, it didn't. And so I know I needed one, and the week before I left, I took I don't know, somehow I pried I couldn't find a fret that would fit to make a 6.5 fret. So I took the very, very last fret on that dulcimer, because who plays way up there anyway? And I had like a chisel or something, and I had a little bit of help with somebody who knew what they were doing. But anyway, we took out that last fret, and then we went to the 6.5 part, and we put a fork underneath and kind of played so that we could figure out about halfway and where it seemed like it would be about right. And we took a jeweler's saw and cut a little slit and tapped in, and I had a 6.5 fret. The things we do when we're young.
I have to tell you, my first dulcimer was a Folk Roots, 1979. because they're of course, our nearest dulcimer builders.
Mm-hmm.
That's rug
Right.
and tackle, you
Right.
know. And we did not. So in '79, I did not have a 6.5 fret. I
Mm-hmm.
had to have it added. I've got it sitting right here, and you can tell it was added because it's different metal. So you were
Mine's the
smart.
same, but it has a little omission way high. There's a little empty fret slot. Oh, anyway, it was amazing. But the funny thing about that was, for the finale, I remember. I mean, here we are, David Schnoffer and all these amazing people. So it comes time for the faculty finale, and they said, "We're going to play Whiskey Before Breakfast," and I thought, "Great, that's fine." I didn't know Whiskey Before Breakfast. I didn't know all these tunes that they were playing.
Right.
Well, anyway, I was a new kid on the block. I wasn't going to say, no, I don't know that. Well, anyway, so I just smiled, said, fine. So we went up there, sat down, put my dulcimer on my lap, and I air strummed the entire thing. And I smiled, and I was keeping my time, and I looked over, and when their hand was down here, my hand was down here, and then, ooh, it went all the way up here. I'm go up here and, dink around a little bit, and then, oh, we're back down at the bottom. And I was having the best. It was hilarious. I never played one note in the whole thing. And people afterwards said to me, "Oh, you had such a good time in that finale. We really enjoyed, we could tell you were really enjoying it." And I smiled. I said, "Yes, I did."
Never knock your own performance.
Well, I teach my beginners now about air strumming,
Yes.
and I
Yes.
tell them I'm letting you in on the professional secrets so that they can join in, so that they can jam or
Mhm.
whatever. You can keep the rhythm,
Mhm.
and there are times when you're learning. It's a very good thing to do. You can
Well,
be
it
part of it.
requires it requires observation, doesn't it?
Indeed.
Yeah. So they're engaged.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A good choice.
Well, I think what else? When you've been around a long time, I think people enjoy hearing about when you were starting out and when you were in situations where you were like, I have no idea what's going on. And you're just like, okay, we're going to fake this. They like to know that because people, I think your students kind of forget that we weren't all born knowing everything about the mountain dulcimer.
Mhm.
And I think it gives them some hope about, like, oh, okay, I can do this.
I really feel right now that we are in the golden age of mountain dulcimer instruction.
I think so too, and I think a bunch of that is because of quarantine as well, and Zoom. I mean, and this whole platform,
Absolutely.
it's making it available to all kinds of people and people who have aged out and can no longer come to the festivals for one reason or another. They can still be part of the community.
And people who never could afford to travel, they don't have to. For 10.99 a class, they're, learning what
Yeah,
they can learn. It's
exactly.
really amazing.
It
Yeah.
really is.
Well,
It
that's
is.
why Erin and I started Dulcimoon because I figured that with the quarantine festivals happening quarterly, well, 3 times a year now,
Mm-hmm.
and with like thousands of people participating since 2020, I
Yes.
figured there was room for another online festival that was maybe around 100 people and was organized around, women leaders and teachers. And
Yep.
it has proven to be so. Um, and each of these festivals have their own personality, whether
They
in
do.
person or online.
They really, really do.
Mhm.
And it's another way that the Dulcimer community can be extended. And the thing that's amazing about the Dulcimer community is it really is. People, when I think back on all the people that have helped me along my way, and, I was thinking about the festival organizers, like Nancy Barker, who gave me a chance to teach at Kentucky Music Week. Um, and then, I mean, there's so many people, many of the Dulcimer festival organizers are women.
Mhm.
I was thinking of them. Louise Ziegler started the Buckeye Festival. Sweetwater used to have Shady Grove, and now Sherry has taken over the Buckeye Festival. Nancy Barker with Kentucky Music Week, Heidi Muller. You were doing the Berkeley. There are so many women that are the ones who are organizing the festivals. And it's by the grace of volunteers and people that love the music that has enabled people like me to make a living doing
Yes.
our lawn is going to look really good. And it does. But it's enabled me to make a living doing this, which is really, really lovely.
And to meet so many other people doing similar, but not exactly the same thing,
Right.
right?
Yes. Yes, and we all have a little different take on how we might even present the same material. And that's fun because we know that the first time you hear something about music theory, it's going to go right over your head. And then the next time you might catch a little bit more, and I always tell my students if we're talking theory, I tell them that's what's going to happen. And eventually you get to know a little, you get to understand it more. And it reminds me, I have a hobby of painting. And when I first started to do some painting, I had a teacher that was so excited and started talking to me about color theory. And I was like, what? I didn't even know color had a theory. And I'm listening to him expounding all this stuff, and it was like, whoosh. I had heard of warm colors and cool colors, but I didn't even know what they were. And I burst out laughing. He goes, "What's funny?" And I said, "This is exactly what I do to my music students when I talk to them about music theory. And now it's happening to me. And I know eventually I'll learn more, but it's just funny, you know."
It is.
But oh, I have a little story about
Okay.
one time at Kentucky Music Week. And this goes along with the community and how, everybody kind of helps everybody else. I was teaching probably advanced beginners, and in my class, it was just the early 90s, was Lorinda Jones and Maureen Sellers, and I think Molly McCormick, and June Goforth. Now, I don't know if you know June Goforth.
I don't know her, but I know where she
You,
comes from.
you know of her. Okay.
Yeah.
June was a retired phys ed teacher with all the energy of a phys ed teacher. Anyway, it was fun that all those people were in were in my class, and they all went off to become professionals and do great things. But June became a wonderful teacher. She was so excited about the mountain dulcimer, and she wanted to learn everything that could possibly be. And she taught, I don't know how many people in the Knoxville area. And I was going through there frequently when that club was just kind of getting off the ground, so I helped do some workshops and things. Well, one of the people that June Goforth taught was Sarah Morgan.
Right.
And she had Sarah when she was like 8 or 9 years old. And June would be so excited about Sarah's lessons, she would call me up while Sarah was there. And I remember one time I was in the grocery store and my phone rings and she says, "Susan, this is June. Are you busy?" I said, "No, I'm." She goes, "I got Sarah here. You got to hear this kid." She said, "Okay, Sarah, go ahead and play for her." And she put the phone down and Sarah Morgan would play for me, and I'm standing there in the grocery store listening to Sarah Morgan playing. It was amazing, but it's so wonderful how, like, the web, I mean, we're all connected. It makes me feel like a Dulcimer grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And Sarah's now teaching all kinds of people, so maybe that makes me a Dulcimer great grandmother. I don't know.
No doubt. So if you haven't heard of Sarah Kate Morgan, she is now currently, she's in charge of, she's like the director of Appalachian Arts at the Hindman Settlement School. Hindman being the school where the Ritchie kids went to school. And that school was being built while Gene Ritchie was growing up.
Right.
So that's a total continuity thing. Not a better person, can I imagine, than Sarah Kate.
Yeah. She's totally remarkable.
Yeah.
She's a remarkable talent and a wonderful teacher. And she and I were actually roommates when we were teaching at an elder hostel run by Maureen Sellers in Louisville, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she was 17. It was a few years ago, but not too awfully long.
So what's your Dulcimer life like now and in the coming year?
Well, I'm one of the things that I've been doing recently is teaching online on Zoom Saturdays with Susan. And I have a loyal following. We do 6-week sessions, fall, winter, and spring. And that came out of the quarantine festivals, because I thought I'm all set up to teach. I may as well do this. And it's been really, really fun. And it feeds into my love. My passion is really making arrangements, arranging music for the mountain dulcimer. And I love doing that. And I also love teaching. I love teaching and taking concepts that are a little complicated and breaking them down simply, little step at a time, so people can put it back together and be able to move on in their dulcimer, journey.
Yes.
And so I'm doing that. I really love that. And the quarantine festivals, and let's see what else. North Georgia Festival's coming up, and then in live I'm going to be doing Kentucky Music Week, and that's going to be that's always a lovely festival. I think I've played there since 1992 may have been my first Kentucky Music Festival. And the week and teaching. And by doing this, it really helps get your musical chops. I mean, your teaching chops to, down. The more you do, the better it works out. And then I'm doing Nutmeg in the fall, and that's in Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the things that are coming up, and I'm hoping I have so many arrangements that I really I should take the time to put them in several books.
Oh, please do. Please do. Yeah, that's important. Yeah. It's simpler than you might think.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, after David Schnoffer passed away, I looked in my file cabinet and I had like 21 original tunes in there. And they're all like intermediate, and they were really cute little things, and they're all different. And so I thought, you know what? If something happens to you, these are going to be sitting in your file cabinet. And so I did put together a book, Music from the Muse, all original tunes with a CD, or it's all available digitally as well.
Sure.
So you can, I wasn't interested in doing a book of original tunes until we had a way for people to hear what they sounded like. Because just the tab, when you can't hear what it is harder for people. So now we have a lot of different ways to be able to hear the music as well.
So where would people find that, Susan?
On my website, www.susantrump.com.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of teaching, I also did 42 lessons in your living room, which are all available digitally as well. And those are multi-level lessons. Each one's about an hour or so, and there's an arrangement for advanced beginner and one for intermediates. And there's backup chords and a duet part for every one of 42 different songs.
That's a lot of work.
It was a lot of work, and I've had over 700 people go through that series, which was nice.
Yeah.
I have a book of classical music and one of left-hand fingerings and chords, and one of O'Carolyn so far.
Mm-hmm.
And one other thing I should mention that's pretty big in my history is the Masters of the Mountain Dulcimer series.
Right.
Now, it was 1998, I believe, and I was driving home to my mom's house for Christmas. And it was the era of everybody putting together compilation CDs. There was Windham Hill, and there's compilation this and compilation that. And I'm driving along, I'm thinking, nobody's done a compilation for the Mountain Dulcimer. So that idea landed on me, and I acted on it. I'm driving down the highway, and I grabbed a piece of paper, and I'm writing down the names of basically all my friends and people that I knew. And when I got out of the car to see my mom, I said, I just had the most amazing idea. And so I contacted those people, and I had them send me recordings, and I put it all together, and I made the Masters of the Mountain Dulcimer Volume 1. I didn't know it was Volume 1 at the time.
Right.
And it included Gene Ritchie and Margaret MacArthur and David Schnaufer and Janita Baker and Tal Glazner and me. I got to be on it since I'm throwing the party. I got to come. Basically 20 of some of the best players in the country.
Yeah.
So that was that was like a real godsend, literally. These wonderful ideas land on you, and I acted on it, and then eventually, about 4 years later, I did Volume 2, and then I did the Masters Play Music for Christmas. And the thing that's fun about those is it's the total span of music that you can play on the dulcimer. Everything from jazz to finger picking to classical to traditional, and it's no one person can play all those styles. So it's really been nice so people can hear all the different styles of the dulcimer in one place. And those are all available in CD or digital from my website.
From your website. That's great. That's great. Well, I know we have volumes 1 and 2, and I really appreciate that you did that.
I should send you the Christmas one.
Oh, we'd love that. We'd love that.
I'll do that.
Well, we could talk forever, obviously.
Probably.
Right. But don't forget, folks, to go to susantrump.com to check out everything that Susan has to offer and where she's going to be and when, and take advantage perhaps of online classes as well as the quarantine classes. That's coming right up. That's another week or so, and registration is going to close. So go to virtualdulcimerfest.com for that information. And you can search for Susan Trump under Mountain Dulcimer and find the classes that are still open, those that are not sold out yet, right?
There are, yes. There are opportunities.
Yes. Thanks so much again, Susan. And I really appreciate your time and your expertise and listening to your story. It's wonderful.
Thank you. And I just want to end with saying that it's been a wonderful journey. It still is being a wonderful journey. And I'm just so grateful to all the people that have supported me along the way. And Joseph Campbell has a wonderful quote. It says, if you follow your bliss, you put yourself on a kind of track that has been there all the while waiting for you. And the life you ought to be living is the one you are living.
Yeah.
And I found that when I was 40 years old, and the universe supports you in sharing your talents, and these are all gifts that we can share. So thank you. You and Erin May are gifts, and more people that are helping me. So thank you.
You're more than welcome. Thanks so much. So we're going to say goodbye, and you can check into this replay at the same link. Share it with your friends, and that's it for us today. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.